2018 Student Showcase for Project Cities. We want to welcome the City of Glendale as our second program cycle city partner. Also our esteemed students that have worked so hard throughout the semester, and the faculty that have provided them with that guidance, and of course any visitors that are participating during this process. Thank you so much for joining us. As mentioned, this is our second program cycle, so we started with the City of Glendale this last August, and so we have worked with them on several different projects, and it's going to be an exciting year, so to speak, so we have a lot in store for you. The three goals of the program are primarily to provide student opportunities to apply the theories and what they've learned in transforming teaching and transforming our local communities. Students also have the opportunity through multidisciplinary classes to work on city projects and actually help co-create solutions for our local city partners. So we're hoping that through these activities and the reports and the presentations, the city professionals will get the opportunity to hear some useful and helpful recommendations that they can apply directly to their plans for the future.
So we're pretty excited for today. We have 40 students and 5 different classes that worked on Project Cities projects this semester. They've been working hard all semester and just finished final reports, so we're getting all that information together for our city partners. Can I just real quickly get a round of applause for the students who are here in the room for their hard work? We're very proud of the work that they've been doing, and we can't wait to share it with you today. I want to do some thank yous real quickly. We'd like to thank Rob Melnick and the rest of the ASU Wrigley Institute Directorate, Dean Chris Boone, Gary Dirks, the director, Meredith Simpson, our chief of staff, and they've really been cheerleaders and supports in a lot of ways, so we couldn't have done this without their support. Thank you. Also, I'd like to thank our folks from the City of Glendale here today. I'm going to call out some names if you don't mind just kind of standing up and identifying yourself. First, thank you, Amanda Keever. Amanda McKeever, sorry. Nice, not by us, I hope. She was our program manager for this semester, and really we couldn't have done this without her support. And then Jean Moreno I'm not sure if she's here. She's not. She didn't make it today, but she also supported in a more expansive role than she even initially signed up for. So some thanks to her. These folks sat through some, the way I see it, pre-coffee conference calls with us very early in the morning and have really been through the trenches, so thank you. We want to thank our faculty, Stephen Carradini, Malcolm Goggin, Nicole Darnall, who's going to be joining us via webcast in a bit, Laura Tan, and Katie Clemens, who I don't believe she's going to make it today. All right. Well, these folks have been fantastic guiding the students on this learning process. We'll introduce each of them again shortly here. But now I want to hand it over to Rob Melnick. He's the Director of International Programs at the School of Sustainability. He's a Senior Sustainability Scientist at the Julianne Wrigley Global Institute of Sustainability. Long name. He is the Presidential Professor of Practice at School of Sustainability, former Executive Director and affiliated faculty with the School of Public Affairs at the Watts College of Public Service and Community Solutions, and he is affiliated faculty for the Center of Biodiversity Outcomes at the Julianne Wrigley Global Institute of Sustainability, a man who wears many hats. Thank you, Rob Melnick.
I had no idea I had all those titles, by the way, so thank you, Steve, for keeping me in line. The one thanks that, first of all, welcome to everyone who's here, for the students who have not been to Wrigley Hall before, and for the faculty as well, of course, and our sponsors and colleagues in Glendale. The one thanks that have not been given, that need to be given, is to Ann and Steve for organizing this whole program. I can tell you firsthand that they're very passionate about it. They've done a great job of leading this program, and we really appreciate it. Let me just make a few comments, and they start with the first time I was exposed to the concepts behind this program what precedes this program, I think it was called Sustainable Cities Year, right, the University of Oregon. And that evolved into a national network of universities that are doing things similar to, but not exactly the same as Project Cities. You see this Epic End network down here, and that's the evolution of this. But I first became aware of this by reading about it, and then a colleague of mine worked for the EPA, said, you got to see this program in action. So I went to San Diego State University and saw the program there. And one of the things that really struck me about the program, very much modeled the same way as this program, was when I spoke to the person who was the professor who was in charge of this, basically Ann's job, except this was a full-time faculty member. I said, so what's your background? Is it sociology? Is it public affairs? Is it? She said, no, speech and hearing. And I was trying to get my head around the connection between speech and hearing and sustainable cities. Well, what it came down to was she was passionate about the relationship between the university and the community. Didn't matter what discipline she was in. Didn't matter where she had published. She was actually very distinguished. She was really passionate about the institutions and how they could relate to one another. So what I love about Project Cities here, and it's in its infancy, but I suspect it's going to grow considerably over the time in the capable hands of Steve and Ann, is that it is the best of the town-gown relationships that you can imagine, because it's a win-win-win. What I mean by that is it's clearly a win for the students, most of all because they get to work in the real world. And if you've ever taught before, and even if you haven't, if you've ever learned before, let's assume you all have learned before, right? You know that when you do things, when you actually do stuff, you really learn more and can become much more exciting than being in a classroom and not being able to take that knowledge and put it to work. So the students really win in so many ways that can't be contained or communicated in the classroom. The faculty win in many cases because the whole concept behind this is to take courses that already have sort of a final project in mind and put them into a context. And so this helps the faculty by making connections, by bringing a larger program together, maybe creating some new ideas, so it helps the faculty as well as the students. But of course, it also is a service learning project at the end of the day, because it gives back to the community, in this case Glendale. When I look at the diversity of the projects, which range from young to elderly, and high-tech to, if you will, more mechanical kinds of things, it really makes me feel good that what's happening here in this win-win-win context is it's covering all this ground that ultimately is going to improve the quality of life for people in Glendale, and it certainly has improved the quality of education for the people who work and study at ASU. So with that, I want to commend all of you for being part of this very exciting project. Thank you for your hard work, and look forward to hearing about the projects themselves. Over to you.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Rob. Next, I'd like to introduce again our folks from the City of Glendale who joined us. I've talked about Amanda McKeever. She's wonderful. She's the Department Support Services Administrator, and she is the project manager for the Project Cities at the City of Glendale. We have with us Kevin Phelps today. Where's Kevin? Right over here. Kevin Phelps is the city manager of the City of Glendale, head honcho right over here. We also have Chris Anaradian. Did I say it right? Yes. All right. Chris Anaradian and Tom Dunsig. Very good. So these gentlemen are with us as well. Thank you for joining us. We have, of course, Councilmember Bart Turner from the Barrel District, the City of Glendale. Thank you so much for joining us here today. If I can also, can I just get everyone who's with us from the City of Glendale to just stand up real quickly and identify yourselves. We also have with us here our project leads, Jean Moreno, Michelle Wojtenko, Brent Stoddard, Jenna Goad, Vern Baker, and Amanda McKeever, and there are a number of other folks. I see Monica, I see Megan, who were able to join us today. Thank you all so much for coming over. Next, I'd like to invite Kevin to come on up and give us some opening remarks from the City of Glendale.
Well, thanks. Hey, thanks for inviting us and letting us be part of this project. I felt like deja vu. I was late getting here, and when I was in college, it seemed like I was always late getting to class. So I really felt at home. I kept waiting to hop on a bird to get here quicker, but I understand you guys don't have a driver's license for that yet here at ASU. So, by the way, I know most of you studied really hard all weekend long. Congratulations on the Territorial Cup. Those of you who haven't had a chance to catch up, I know that's a big deal for you guys. You know, I'm really fortunate. Came from a part of the country where the university system really helped frame what the state of Washington is today. My alma mater, for example, Washington State University, huge in the area of veterinary medicine, but agriculture, and it's one of the big agricultural centers in the world. Their wheat production, for example, is the #1 in the world, and it became because of the really the assets of that university. We have other private universities in the school that have helped frame that. Now, I have to unfortunately talk about University of Washington, although I do that with a little bit of disdain, but obviously the Microsofts, the technology, the biotechnology, all really came from the university. And so, you know, when I moved down here 3 years ago from that part of the country, it became really obvious what a huge asset ASU is to this region, and one of the reasons why it's the fastest growing. And you guys, your innovation and your approach, the type of students you're attracting is top notch. So for us to have an opportunity to really come in and to learn from you was still the old movie line, but you had us at hello. This really is a great opportunity for us. You know, we have sustainable programs in place. Certainly we're committed through our council and through our city staff, but as you know, sustainability is evolving. You know, what we did yesterday may have been really good yesterday, but we need to be planning for the future. And sometimes in government, we don't always do a great job of looking real far down the road. We're great when the 911 calls in and we get a EMS truck out to you, or we get a police department to respond, we get your garbage picked up every day right on time. But sometimes we're so busy doing our day-to-day, we don't get afforded the opportunity to look real far down the road. And so for us to be able to kind of work with you and kind of get your insights on some of these issues of sustainability for us is a huge advantage. Because if not, we get that lost in that day-to-day mundane part of what we do. The other thing that we really are challenged with is that, you know, we are, as leaders in the city, we have a community of 240,000 people, is really we're putting in place what our future generations, what their livability, what their community is going to look like. But the problem is, you probably guessed, I'm not 40 years old. Councilmember Turner, I think, is our youngest council member, I believe, on our council, and he's not 40 years old. And so what happens just by default, kind of sometimes we get to be a little bit of an older leadership group in our community, communities. That's not unusual to Glendale, and yet we're trying to make decisions on a new generation coming up. And so, to a degree, we can only make certain kinds of have certain kinds of insights and experiences because I bring with me kind of my cave, if you remember Plato's allegory of the cave. So this opportunity to engage with this generation, who I think is a brilliant generation, and to hear from you and to learn from you is a huge opportunity. So we're really looking forward. I've had a chance already to review some of the posters. First of all, thank you for making them big enough that I could read them without putting my glasses on. But really, a sincere thanks to, obviously, for the instructors and the university, but really thanks to the students for, and I know that there are going to be a number of items that we will implement, and I hope as you go forward in your career, consider being in government. It's a great career to be in. We need innovation. We need smart minds. And but if nothing else, I think you'll know you're going to make a difference in Glendale for our community going forward. So again, thank you for the opportunity. And we are really, really fortunate to be able to be part of this Project Cities opportunity. Thanks.
And I know I've talked about them just a little bit, but I want to briefly introduce where our faculty are coming from this semester. The faculty, can you please stand for me? Nicole Darnall will be joining us via webcast. She is the Associate Dean and a professor at the School of Sustainability. We have Stephen Carradini right over here, who's an associate professor at the Hugh Downs School, assistant professor. I have ASST. All right. He's with the Hugh Downs School of Communication and the Technical Communication Program. We have Malcolm Goggin, who's an associate professor and professor of practice at the Watts College of Public Service and Community Solutions. We have Katie Clemens, who is the director of the Youth Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program. And we have Laura Tan, who is the program manager of the ASU Public Service Academy. Can we give them all a quick round of applause? All right, and to let you all know, we have a few different formats for classes this semester. We actually had a number of classes that were online. So we will be joined remotely by one presenter, and we will be showing video as well for another one of the online classes. All right, and with that, I would like to introduce. All right, so these are our projects this semester. We did 3 projects with 5 classes. The multi-generational community engagement, we involved Laura Tan and Malcolm Goggins' class. For the digital media strategy and policy, we had 2 classes taught by Stephen Carradini, and for the sustainability options, Malcolm's class is on there as well. It was actually Nicole Darnall's class, typo there. And with that, we're going to invite the students from CPP 201 to come on up and present on their project. Thank you. I don't know who's speaking first. There you go. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They say it's best to just stand in front of the banners. So,
Oh,
you can stand
fantastic.
in front of the
Excellent.
And we have
There you go.
Awesome.
introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lorena Austin. I just wanted to preface really quick that I have a final at 3 o'clock. So I'm just going to kind of open this really quickly, but you are in very capable hands of my partner here. He's awesome. So,
Yeah, my name is Markine Ravi. I'm a computer science major. Same major.
yes, I'm sorry. My major, Lorena, maybe we just have to lean in. This is new for me with the mic. There you go.
My name is Markine Ravi, and I'm a computer science major.
There we go. And again, Lorena Austin. I have the longest major title, I think, here at ASU. I am part of the Transborder Studies Chicano-Chicana, Latino-Latina Studies program and focusing in U.S. and Mexican regional immigration policy and economy. I don't know how that's going to fit on the degree. Okay, and here is our presentation. So young people who are often stereotyped as millennials are often thought of as lazy and unengaged, but we know that's not true because we see young people, especially this past year, use their voice for issues that matter to them. We have seen them come out in droves this past year and really have come to realize how big their impact is in our society and in our communities. So what if we could redirect their passion and their voice to issues that affect them directly in their community? So imagine a world where young people are aware and engaged of the roles of local government within their communities. And so again, this is our team. More than half of them cannot be here today, but we cannot not acknowledge all the hard work they put in this semester with us, and we were very, very fortunate to have an amazing team. And so our community partner is the City of Glendale. Glendale, as a lot of you might know, is the 6th largest city in the valley, a population nearing about 250,000, with about 49% minority in Glendale, median household income approximately $47,000. 21% of the population has a bachelor's degree, and the median age of residents is about in the mid-30s. And so our challenge. And we really appreciated this challenge, and something that Mr. Phelps alluded to is that Glendale understands that their local government are making rules and policies and laws that are going to affect their residents later on. And so we really loved the idea that they were trying to engage the young people in their community. So they saw a lack of a civic engagement among youths between 18 to 25, and decisions are made without their involvement in different subsets of the population. So it was really, really important. And some of the root causes might have been allocation of resources, lack of education, lack of interest. Let me put a question mark there because, again, we know that young people are interested, but maybe just don't know how to connect the two. So using technology, looking at socioeconomics, and so all of these things, language barriers in the community, and how can we maybe welcome different parts of the community so that all voices are heard. And so we came up with this question, and so our class is a 201 Community Impact Lab, and what we really loved about this class is it really forces you to look at complex challenges in a totally different scope. So instead of just thinking problem solution, you dive into it and look at all the different parts of this problem. So it might be looking at different stakeholders within the community, going and looking at the community itself, always looking through a lens of empathy when looking at complex challenges. So that was really, really important for us in our class. And so this is the question that we came up with this statement. How might we promote community engagement among youth in a way that's sustainable, fun, and cost effective? Because we know a lot of times local government doesn't have like millions of dollars in their back pockets.
So our prototype design was to come up with a committee made up of students ages, or it's not students, just citizens ages 18 to 25. So what this committee would focus on is three things: community involvement and engagement, where they go out and they try to address certain problems in the community, sort of like they're given a project and they're coming up with a solution, kind of like we were. The other one was social media. We know social media is a growing thing, and especially among people our age, and having a group that's focused on building some sort of platform for the city and to talk about the committee itself would be huge for engaging the youth. And then the third item would be, what was it? Networking, yes, networking with the city officials themselves. So giving these individuals a chance to actually talk to these city officials and get to know how government really works on a local level. This is sort of This is sort of a website that we had in mind, some sort of prototype to introduce the committee and what they're about.
And then as far as testing, because we knew that since we'd have to kind of establish this committee, and there's lots of things that governments of any kind or establishments have to go through, different stages and to implement things and things like that. So what we did is we went and got a lot of feedback from stakeholders in the community, and we talked to people in this age range and found that they really do want to be involved in their community, but they don't know how, and they feel like there's this natural barrier between them and the government, and maybe that's somewhere they don't belong because they might not see people that look like them in those areas. They might not have communicated with them face to face. I know one of our members, Kathy, she went and talked to some of the high schools, and they explained that the students really are involved and they want to be because they know so much. Like, students now have access to so much information. They're not naive to the things going on around them, but they might just not have the tools that they need or have that communication with the stakeholders that will lift them up and elevate their voices the way that's needed. Also spoke with the president of Glendale Community College, and she said they do have a good relationship with the city, but didn't know this is something they might be interested in. And obviously Glendale is one of the largest community colleges in Maricopa. I came from Mesa Community College, so I love the community college system personally. I just transferred here. It's my first semester, so it's going well so far. But they have a really strong student government. They have really large clubs on their campus that have to do the poli-sci and different things, and that's almost the identical demographic that you all are looking to work with. And they're one of the largest in Maricopa. I think they 25 to 30,000 students. So right there, that was a great connection, and she was looking forward to meeting with you all and seeing how you all could build on that relationship that you already have. And then just again, Cheyenne, I'm trying to think of everyone's group. Cheyenne went and talked to some of the local USGs or student governments. And again, too, they said that they are involved, but it's just that connection that needs to be built. So just building upon those relationships that you might have already built on before or might have had that introduction, but just ensuring that you're using all of the resources you have and all the people that you already have in place. And so after that, we would talk with City of Glendale afterwards. It's something they were interested in, and seeing how we could implement this prototype to go into effect. And with that, y'all, I'm so sorry I have to leave. But like I said, you were in very good hands. Mark and Dave, good luck.
Thank you.
But it's been such a pleasure to work on this project. It's really, really neat to come from a classroom and use and be taught skill sets that you can take with you into the workplace and in the future. Oh, Des!
Our next member. Coming up here.
It's like tag team.
Cool. So thank you for being here. You're actually up.
I'm doing prototype testing.
No, solution roadmap. So.
Sorry, my name is Desmond Kumi. I'm a business law major over at WP Carey. So I think we're on solution map. So basically, starting off, we are looking to announce the creation of the committee, and by doing that, we are just telling people we're in search of individuals who are ready to participate and engage and take up their responsibility within the committee. Going through midterms, 3 to 6 months, we start regulating the commitment aspect and the permanent and agenda of the membership as well. And then in the long term, we should be able to see yes, 5 to 10 individuals that are frequently meeting and having a well-established website in order to navigate what's going on and staying in the loop. Some constraint is initial recruitment. It's a big responsibility to run a committee, just being an organization, just keeping up with the times and meetings, because we have busy lives, we're all people, we have priorities, things like that. And also the interest of what problems we're going to deal with the community. Are we still task oriented? Things like that. Just keeping that organization, just keeping it as organized as possible. But the opportunity is just exposing the committee to community. It's a tool that can bring investments, interdependence between city officials, residents, and the youth as well, giving them their voice to act out in the community the way they see fit, as well as expanding. Should this model be very ideal, it not only can it grow within the city of Glendale, but other cities, even other states. This can probably be replicated all over the nation. In the concept of funding with feasible donations and resources, it shouldn't be much of a challenge to keep the committee going.
So for the financial cost of the committee, this is kind of broken down into 3 different sections: marketing, what do you call it? Incentives,
Yeah.
and then a miscellaneous. So for marketing, we have the copy, paper, usual things needed to get the word out about the committee, as well as having a little bit of swag. So, when you go on campuses and stuff, people actually know what the committee is and go, hey, look, this is something cool. For incentives, we want to make sure we have food and drink at the committee meetings. We want to keep people full, kind of like here. And then we also want to potentially have scholarship incentives for the individuals participating. This is a big investment from the City of Glendale if they are able to provide this, but having scholarships can ensure that people actually do participate very regularly. And that you get the best and brightest of them all. And then I know that Gene and Jenna did mention that they wanted a City of Glendale vehicle that would go out in the community and basically do the exposure aspect of things, really talk to the people firsthand, maybe give them candy and ice cream, things like that. And then potentially having website maintenance. So, if we do create our own website separate from the City of Glendale website, we would need someone to maintain it, as well as that it's not there, but like a social media kind of person, right? So whoever's running this committee should also be overlooking that, just so that we have someone who's trained and capable and understands how social media works to use it as effectively as possible. And for the timeline, essentially summarizing what Desmond talked about, we have to set a plan for, the first step would be to set a plan for marketing the committee and increasing awareness of it throughout the city. We want to make sure people and students know what it's about. We also want to solidify the agenda and requirements of the committee, what they're supposed to be doing, what it takes for people who are involved to stay involved and be successful, as well as develop training materials. We know that, jumping into a committee like this, not everybody knows exactly how local government works, and especially specific local government. So we want to develop training materials based on the Glendale's existing training materials to make sure that people actually have an understanding, or the city committee members have an understanding of how the government works. 3 to 6 months in, we do want to have 5 to 10 individuals join the committee, have it be a healthy group, and also begin the training and working on projects. For working on projects, it could go one of 2 ways. You can either provide the project to the group, and then they can sort of work on developing some sort of solution for it, or you can kind of give them the task of, hey, go out into the community, find the problem, and solve it. So those are 2 options. And then, of course, 7 to 12 months in, establishing a website that people can navigate, as well as having a strong social media platform. We want to be able to brag about the committee and how amazing they are, so people are invested in it and want to know about it for the future. Oh, and also talk about like events that are going on in the community and what have you. And then obviously the last part is really important, collecting feedback on what could be improved for the future. We want this to be an iterative process, right? We want to make sure that every year that the committee exists, it becomes better and better.
Just for more emphasis on this, the committee should be focused on empathy and the human-centeredness, that it focuses necessarily on the people, but not necessarily the person.
And I don't know if any of you have seen Parks and Rec, but in one of the seasons, they have the Unity Committee. started by Leslie Knope, where basically the committee is given the opportunity or given the challenge of finding a way to develop unity between the two towns that join, Eagleton and Pawnee. And essentially, that was kind of like the basis of creating this thing, right? I just had to, I just need to. So with that in mind, that's kind of how we want this committee to move forward, but professionally. Thank you guys so much for your support and time. This is a fantastic project to work on. And it was, yeah.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, we can take a couple questions.
You want the questions? Just repeat the question.
Did you do any research or case studies to find out if any other cities have a committee like this? Or some sort of commission or group?
So we did not, but sorry. So she asked if we did research on if any other models were set in AR cities and such. We didn't necessarily look to see for any other cities, but funny enough, I'm a mentor in this group called Democracy, and I work with high school students who actually replicate design thinking in different communities like this. So as far as other cities doing this, it's kind of more of a high school state, which is even better. You want to start younger so that they have that knowledge and experience before, so that they can apply it later on.
So are you suggesting then that the city has its own website that we're going through a redesign right now, that what we really need is, however, is really a separate site that really is more attuned to the target market that we're trying to attract, that it would be a separate standalone website?
So the question was, should the website that we mentioned be a separate standalone website, considering Glendale is already working to, what would you say, update their existing website? Honestly, it could go either way, really. It kind of depends on what you guys find is necessary. Having a separate website may not be necessary if we do have a strong social media presence, if you are able to attract those committee members, and if you want to put that as sort of the number one on the agenda, develop a presence. It may not be so necessary because in the end, students and young people anyway use social media to find out about things, so they probably don't need a website, or if they do, you can always put the link on social media. So it might be a better idea, instead of having a separate website, to just have the information on the existing Glendale website that is going to be updated, and then market that through social media.
If anything, it's just like a updated web page per se, or a own distinct web page to the website in that department per se.
How do you think you would measure kind of the metrics? How would you analyze whether the committee is accomplishing the civic engagement part that you want to? You mentioned at one point that you would, do a review of things, but are there, are there metrics? Are there things that you would measure to say, hey, this is a successful committee. We're getting the things out of it that we want. Did you guys discuss that at all?
So the question was, did we discuss the specific metrics on what could be improved for the future on the feedback itself? To be totally honest, we didn't go into that much detail. That is a fantastic question and something we did consider. But, for metrics, you would probably want to make sure that when you bring in projects that you can kind of develop specific metrics for those projects themselves, right? So it's hard to develop just general metrics just out of the blue, but, you could even, for example, one metric could be how many people you attract on social media, how many followers you get on Twitter, how often you post, etc. But specific metrics would probably be based on the projects themselves.
Another thing looked at is this is more of a, not somewhere along the trial and error, because this is a very important solution, and the solution either works or doesn't work. So going to answer your question, I think there's an emphasis on understanding the problem, getting as much research as possible, so you can come kind of like an expert in that problem. Therefore, you can tackle it better, because if not, it's more likely it would fail. So we would practice more of research and knowing what we're dealing with and being as specific as possible, so that we can be very accurate.
right. So,
Well, and one thing I would like to mention real quick too is that the students are doing their presentations, but there will be a final report that is eventually created for the city that will then be published so that you will have access to that information in writing as well as the PowerPoint presentations. So there is a report to the background for these projects.
all right, and with that, we're going to move on to the next project. So this is the social media strategy, the digital media strategy project. This students from TWC 522, it's Stephen Carradini's class. Bit of background real quickly, Glendale has a robust and state-of-the-art presence in conventional media like television and print. However, there's a limited digital and social media presence in a world where a large portion of public communication takes place through those means. Glendale is hiring a social media manager in the near future without any clear social media policy or strategy. The purpose of this project was for students to create a comprehensive social media program and strategy to help the city communicate with their constituencies about city issues, events, and initiatives. Students would develop a strategy that identifies target audience as well as appropriate strategies, plans, and platforms for reaching targeted audiences while observing the digital media policy. Students worked in tandem with the other student group from Stephen's class working on the digital media policy project.
Hello. Today we will be talking about the shared project between ASU and the City of Glendale as part of the Project Cities initiative, for which students have come up with an operations document for the city's social media management staff. This document has 3 main sections, which include policies, rules, and procedures. We will start with policies, which focus on legal concerns, specifically in the categories of copyright and trademark rules, social media records retention, and hate speech regulations. The research conducted includes sources from both professional and academic worlds, which ensures that our recommendations are conducive to a modern social media management plan. To start, some best practices for the social media staff to keep in mind include training employees to differentiate personal from professional social media accounts and using disclosure agreements, disclaimers, or release forms where needed. Be sure to report threatening hate speech to proper authorities, abide by terms of use, and get legal clearance for any sweepstakes activities. Next, we will discuss intellectual property and copyright regulations. Intellectual property is that which is created by the city for the city. In order to protect this work, register a trademark and use the TM symbol. The city's legal team should be consulted for its interpretation of fair use and to review terms and conditions. The legal team should draft guidelines for confidential information, and staff be trained accordingly. Disclaimer statements for content not created within the city should be devised, and regular legal team reviews should take place. Policy documents outlining social media expectations should be created to guide and protect social media usage and content. Use fillable permission forms to ensure content created for the city is owned by the city. The social media manager will have multiple responsibilities, which are listed here. Areas need to be revisited as social media connections increase. It will be important to maintain records of social media content, which is covered in the next section. The Arizona State Library Archives and Public Records is the authority on record retention in the state of Arizona. The City of Glendale should reference their website for retention schedules, standards, and guidance. Only unique records must be retained. Anything specifically created for social media would be considered unique content like comments and feedback. Being aware of the use of original content or unique records will ensure you keep the records you need to retain. If you are not sure how to retain comments and feedback from the public, you might consider turning off that ability. The implementation of a CMS system would automize the process of social media retention and make it easier to organize and retrieve content. With a CMS, records are automatically archived, so you don't need to worry about data loss. Consider implementing CMS software that will allow you to archive and retrieve records easily. A few examples are listed here. Now we will take a look at threat management and hate speech regulations. Incorporating a policy for threat management and hate speech is more than writing a code of conduct. There are legal concerns that the social media manager must diligently monitor. All constituents, communique must adhere to legal parameters. Many legal cases and laws from a global collective were researched. Canada, Germany, and South Africa currently have ongoing litigation regarding hate speech. These countries are setting precedents to be considered by every site owner in the realm of social media. The policy must define what is or isn't allowed and what type of comments will lead to criminal investigation. The Bill of Rights is commonly used by those wielding hate speech. The city must remember that they can be held responsible for criminal communique and all feedback must be archived. The inevitability of hate speech requires censorship. The City of Glendale must state the removal policy up front to avoid unwarranted recursive action from its constituents. The types of criminal communique are listed here and will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Finally, aggressive and off-topic speech. Trolls search online to post flame bait and to lure someone into their web of hate. This must be stopped immediately before it escalates into criminal communique. The social media manager must be a vigilant monitor of all communique. Thank you for your time. Next up, we will be discussing the rules portion of the Social Media Management Operations document.
This presentation of social media rules will cover these topics. What are rules? Accurate account use. Content reflects values. Announcements. Best content types. And when and what to post. Please refer to the Social Media Rules Research document for more details on these topics. This summary of social media rules shares best practices that will enable the City of Glendale to meet the needs and expectations of its audiences while safeguarding its reputation. Since one size does not fit all, the city should consider each platform's audiences and culture before choosing the appropriate social media platforms to share content with your target audiences. Additionally, the city should establish rules for the appropriate use of city accounts and for sharing city-related content on personal social media accounts. Social media offers the City of Glendale an important way to communicate purposeful information directly to your audiences in a timely way. All social media content serves as a reflection of the City of Glendale and should reinforce the city's values of ethics, integrity, transparency, honesty, and service. An established protocol enables the city to effectively use social media to deliver important announcements, as well as a crisis or emergency management plan that meets the needs and expectations of your target audiences. A best practice is to develop pre-approved content for use in diverse situations so that you can ideally implement a response plan within 1 hour of the event. Examples of major announcements may include holiday business closures or the introduction of new city staff or community partners. Examples of emergency or crisis situations may include weather-related events and associated storm damage or road closures, as well as amber and silver alerts. For emergency and crisis situations, the research document includes an outline and an example of best practices that will support your efforts to develop and implement an effective and timely response plan. Best practices demonstrate that 80% of social media content should be designed to entertain, inform, and educate users, while 20% should be designed with a promotional or marketing focus on behalf of the city. The span of social media content is inclusive of visual elements such as pictures, graphics, pre-recorded videos, and live videos, as well as audio elements such as podcasts. Best practices have been shared in the research document on when and what to post on social media, including the best days and times to post content on the top social media platforms, the recommended frequency of updates, the ideal sizing dimensions for images, and the ideal character counts for updates. Incorporating these best practices into your staff training will enable city staff to effectively use social media to meet the needs and expectations of your target audiences. Next are the recommended social media procedures that will enable the city to conduct your business and serve your audiences in effective, efficient, and responsible ways.
The social media manager will work directly with the public affairs director. He or she will be responsible for maintaining and growing the City of Glendale's online presence. During day-to-day operations, the social media manager is expected to follow all social media guidelines as detailed in the policies, rules, and procedures document. The social media manager has the autonomy to create content within the City of Glendale's guidelines. However, content must be drafted at least 2 weeks in advance to allow time for approval. A certain level of trust is granted to the social media manager, and in the event that a timely response is more appropriate than waiting for approval, the social media manager has the authority to publish content. The social media manager should work collaboratively with the public affairs offices of community partners. These partners do not need to approve the content, but collaboration should ensure that all parties agree on details such as tone, hashtags, and media. All City of Glendale social media accounts are required to be created and centrally managed by the social media manager. With the exception of police and fire, the social media manager is responsible for all aspects of the city's social media accounts, including content and retention. The social media manager must ensure that all official social media profiles clearly identify the pages as created and managed by the City of Glendale. As much as possible, posts should include links back to related content on the city's official website. Social media content should engage with and add value to the lives of Glendale's residents, businesses, and visitors. The social media manager should keep abreast of current conversations and trends in order to generate content that is relevant and appropriate, while also taking advantage of existing content on city websites and social media platforms through cross-promotion. Original content should be prioritized, but it is acceptable for 40% of posts to be shared outside content. Glendale social media content should reflect the enthusiasm of a thriving community. Posts should be written in the first person, using a consistent persona, and in a conversational tone that matches the audience, content, and situation. Content should be produced in a variety of forms such as text, videos, photographs, and graphics, and should be in an accepted style and format of the platform to which it is being posted. The social media manager should obtain and use programs that aid in the scheduling and evaluation of social media content. Scheduling software should be used to maintain an editorial content calendar and to manage posts on all platforms, with accounts being updated at a frequency appropriate for the specific platform. Analytics should be used to gain audience insight and to evaluate content and platform effectiveness with the goal of maximizing citizen engagement. Content posted on the city's social media accounts is a direct reflection of the City of Glendale. All posts must adhere to the highest ethical standards and maintain a professional and tactful tone. Social media posts must not disparage the City of Glendale, elected officials, community partners, or fellow employees. City accounts may not be used to solicit commerce or to endorse or disparage any commercial products, services, entities, or political candidate. The social media manager will maintain a full inventory of the city's official social media accounts. All social media account login credentials and passwords must be kept compliant with all security measures established by the city's IT department. Any content posted to a City of Glendale social media site is subject to public disclosure. Questionable content should never be posted. Posting content containing confidential or proprietary images or information is prohibited. Social media sites must include mandatory notices relating to responsibility and liability for public comments and external content. The city should prioritize engaging with constituents over avoiding risky situations. Social media interactions must involve responding to constituents' comments and requests in order to maintain audience engagement. Hostile constituents must be handled with courtesy and concern. While a positive resolution may not always be possible, the goal of any interaction is to maintain a calm and professional demeanor to minimize any negative impact on the city's public image. Thank you for taking the time to consider our suggestions for social media policies, rules, and procedures for the City of Glendale. We hope that these guidelines will be effective in helping the city to implement a social media program that engages the citizens of Glendale and adds value to their lives. If you have any questions or need further clarification, please contact Dr. Carrie Newman. Thank you.
Excellent. So we have some time for a couple questions if you want to come up.
Stephen, do you want to tell them a little bit about your class? This was kind of an unusual
Sure.
circumstance.
So the class is a graduate class, and it's a 7.5-week class because the degree program that I'm in has a degree that is intended to be all online. So the way that this course works is that we have all of the content of 16 weeks jammed into 7.5 weeks. And so the project that we did in this class took place in half the time of the projects in other classes. So one of the ways that we were able to do that was we worked with the City of Glendale and figured out a way to find a project that was heavily research oriented so that students could do that work basically from the beginning of the class. So I gave them the assignment very quickly instead of having to introduce a wide array of concepts before having them start doing this research. Furthermore, this was an online course and many of the students do not live in Phoenix or even in Arizona at all. And so we had to negotiate how do we work with the city as well as work where we live. And so Brent Stoddard, Public Affairs Director, was very gracious in giving time where we did a one-on-one interview with questions that the students had developed, and then we were able to record that and give that to the students so that they could have some interaction with the City of Glendale and be able to have their specific questions that related to some of the issues that were more specifically related to Glendale answered so that it didn't become just a generic project, but that it was really tailored towards the City of Glendale. So it was a bit of a different experience because we didn't have some of the on-ground elements that some of the other classes were able to have, but it was still a valuable experience for the students in getting a real contract sort of situation working, and I feel like for the City of Glendale as well. So, probably have time for like one question. Yes. Yes, please.
Okay. Hi. So I actually am a digital media manager for the City of Peoria.
Wonderful.
Very new position
Yes.
that I created, and we work closely with Glendale on a lot of stuff. So I'm glad I was invited. But one question I haven't really gotten an answer to, and I'm not sure if you guys had even approached this, was the multicultural aspect of it, and how do you address multiple languages and multiple ethnicities in one spot online, like say one Facebook page or one Twitter page or whatever.
Yeah, so this class actually did not look as much at that because this was more of a overall policy procedures, sort of the high level overview. It's a good question though, because the class that's going to come up in about an hour, they did look at that specifically on how to handle constituents of various languages. So that we'll have to table until the next one.
Yeah.
So, and you had a question?
No.
Okay.
I was helping out.
Yes, briefly.
Just quick, you mentioned ideal mix on content was kind of the 80-20. Was that based on research that shows how to keep the follower engaged in it? If you mix that up, you have a chance of losing them?
Yeah, so there is a lot of practitioner sort of professional knowledge about that. And there's some research into engagement. There's a lot of resources that they used. I can't say for sure that that specific number came from like academic research, but it is the students showed me that it comes from a wide array of sources. It's sort of a common accepted thing. I think we're out of time, but I would love to answer your question after.
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Stephen.
As is common among many cities, public engagement in Glendale is often limited to people who have the time or resources to provide feedback in traditional public forums like public meetings, hearings, other events hosted by the city. So people in younger, underserved, lower income, and vulnerable communities are often excluded from this process that directly affects their health, economic well-being, and opportunities for self-improvement. The purpose of this project was to identify excluded audiences residing in Glendale and find ways to include their voices in the city forums. Now, engaging young leaders is especially important to the city managers since they will be the future leaders of the community, as Mr. Phelps pointed out earlier. So this is going to be the presentation where we'll have someone video in for us, but I'd like to hand, and then we'll have another student present here in person. I'd like to hand the microphone off to Malcolm. Would you like to say a few words? All right, this is Dr. Malcolm Goggin.
Okay, so I'd just like to say a couple of things about the course. It is a graduate course, and it is the last course that master's students take in their program. So they've already done the methods, they've done a lot of different work, and now this is a course that allows those students to put what they've learned together into one report. Now, the one thing that's very different about this particular class is that there are 5 students that have done a project. There are 5 individual projects. Okay, there's not one group project, but each student has a different project. One student might be doing interviews, another student doing SWOT analysis, another student doing something quite different. And today we have two of those 5 students, one here and one online. And I think if you go back and take a look at the 5 students, you'll get an idea of the different types of programs that they or approaches that they've taken and the kinds of data they've used. The last point I'd like to make is that these students are probably going, or have already submitted a final paper, which is a 25 to 30 page paper. And they have 2 audiences. They have me, which is an academic looking for the academic requirements that I have, and they have Jean and Jeannie and other people in Glendale to see what the final results look like. So this particular paper includes an introduction, a literature review, methods of data collection and analysis, findings and recommendations. So some of that is going to be reflected here. We don't emphasize the literature review, for example. So I'm going to ask Steve to introduce the first student, who's Jaslyn Red, who did expert interview, revealed several strategies implemented in Ithaca, New York. So she did a comparative case study of what was going on in Ithaca, New York. And Aaron Robinson, who will follow her, will give a face-to-face presentation. He also did some other cities.
Okay, Jaslyn, go ahead and start your screen share.
And can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. Let me turn you guys up just a little bit. So yes, as Dr. Goggin said, I focused my project on the city of Ithaca just to look into more strategies that they're implementing for engaging the young people, especially the millennial generation, since this government, the city government, is led by millennials. And I also felt it was important for a strategy to be on community-based volunteerism based on the fact that a lot of millennials, they're being recognized for their contributions made in their philanthropic endeavors. First, so the objectives were first understanding the millennial demographic, their behaviors and beliefs, just get a background knowledge of what their interests are, what is trending with them. Second was to analyze the relationship between community-based volunteerism and millennial public participation, especially seeing if community-based volunteerism can lead to more civic engagement. And then also looking into other local government strategies that have been successful in engaging younger generations, especially within the Ithaca area. So my methods was a semi-structured qualitative interview with the city of Ithaca, particularly their Community Life Commission, which is responsible for understanding like what is going on in their community. They have to interact, they have to provide community engagement so that they can get community input and their needs and like what's important and what's concerning the community, and provide feedback, research, and analysis to the government, their Common Council, along with other boards when they're creating, planning, and implementing policies for the city. So the strategies that the Community Life Commission focuses on is managing accessible community forum, also known as the city's voice. This is located online on their website. It's constantly updated. It also allows community members to put in their ideas, feedback, and any like issues that may be concerning the community at the time. Second is that they are really, really key on high responsiveness with anybody reaching out to the commission. They feel that it's important to make sure that each community member is having a positive experience to continue their community engagement. And then third, they're actively researching what is going on within the community, especially talking to special communities, focus groups within the city, and actually inviting them to their community meetings just so they can learn about them and what's going on. And so that's guest speakers, doing presentations, whatever may be at the time. And then the next for overall community participation strategies for the city that they utilize is high awareness and education for any city projects that are going on at the time. They do it in a way where people have to see, like people are compelled by what's going on, whether it's through posters, whether it's through social media, and that also really pushes their community members to be engaged, to be involved. is a strategy that they use. Second is that their mayor is regarded as a public figure. And so he's used his power through the social media platform and connecting with what's going on, what is going on at the national, federal level to what is going on to what the Ithaca government is actually doing for its people and connecting the dots for them. And then second is that the city recognizes that when issues concerning the national issues at the national level or the federal government that millennials are very interested in and want to know more of, they use that as a catalyst for community engagement, where they can bring awareness and education about what the local government is doing and how they can help them at the local level, but also why their community engagement is important for the city. I'm trying to keep this within 5 minutes. And then the recommendations based off what I learned from this interview with Ithaca, and then along with the literature review of what I found nationally, what local governments are doing is, first is Glendale considering hosting a community panel. What they selected millennial residents and city officials and community leaders, where they can learn about what the millennial residents' interests are in their community, how they engage in it, what they do know about what the local government is doing, just to start a dialogue between both the city and the millennials. And then second, as like to go hand in hand with the panel, is to put the ball back in their court with allowing millennials to spearhead a short-term community-based volunteer project where also community members, community officials serve as mentors, advisors throughout the project. This is to hopefully help engage them in a way where they can engage them within meaningful experiences. Sorry, my mouth's dry. Engage them with meaningful experiences where they want to continue being a part of the community, actively engaging, and they can see a direct impact of their efforts on the community. Next is just the local government awareness initiative. The studies I found concluded that there is a big disconnect between local governments and the residents, particularly the millennial generation, because they're overloaded with negativity from social media outlets about the government, but the government that turns them off to wanting to be engaged with them. Or you have another spectrum where millennials are highly engaged with the government, with their local community. And so to kind of bridge that gap is to provide a tastefully put together tastefully put together campaign initiative that focuses on raising awareness about Glendale's government, highlighting what they're doing, how they can help, that can empower residents to want to get involved. From what I understand, it's people don't engage with the government or their local community because they don't care. It's where they don't know how to. So having this initiative campaign centralized at one place where everybody can go to could be beneficial moving forward. So that is all I have. I enjoyed working on this project, and thank you for allowing me to help in any way that I could. Hopefully this did help the clients.
Here is that for you.
The clicker as well, if you like it. Yeah, please, thank you.
Okay.
I don't think so. I need this.
Okay.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I would like to start off by saying I'm glad I came dressed prepared for this. I didn't know I was going to be giving a formal presentation, so bear with me. This was an interesting capstone, of course, for me, of course, just because I met Kevin back a while ago with Nicole. She had our class, like my first semester, started my MPA program, and so I was pretty much interested in, seeing how younger people become more engaged with local government. So this was like one of my, this is a point of interest to me just from initial starting of the class. So to begin, I'm going to go through a list of techniques that I found I was interested in engaging millennials and younger generations with local government. So my 3 research questions that I proposed throughout my paper was looking at how can we engage millennials and younger generations with their local government, and also is the use of internet beneficial for civic engagement with citizens. Lastly, I took a look at developing intergenerational communities without allow for all generations to interact with one another to address community needs. So one of the things I want to move forward, looking at the significance of the value of internet. We know that we're living in a day of where the world is dominated by technology. I want to look at and review is that actually the best approach to take in this type of situation where you're looking to engage millennials with the local government, and also the benefits of social media. A lot of people have access to social media, but they don't know how to actually use it correctly. It's all about the approach when you're trying to engage with a certain crowd. Next to on my paper, I reviewed and analyzed cities' approaches. So I looked at many different cities throughout the United States. How was their engagement piece with engaging their local citizens, and particularly their millennial population, also cities here throughout Arizona. And then at the end, I recommended a solution that I think will be best for engaging all populations, not just younger people. Of course, we would like to encourage make the connection with the younger people so they can be encouraged to become the next local leaders, but also engaging those that's older, but they're disconnected with the local government and knowing what's actually going on. So on my literature review, I looked at pieces of civic engagement pieces through online. A lot of the engagement pieces that I found online were pertaining to creating digital apps where you can engage with your local community, far as if you're having a local issue that's taking place, it's an app that your citizens can actually download and stay connected with what's going on throughout the city, and also you can give feedback and your input on some of your concerns. Also, throughout my literature review, I looked at citizens participation techniques, so ways that you can communicate with your citizens outside of technology, outside of social media through their phones. Another way that could be is you can set up opportunities where you can have live streaming of your city hall your city hall meetings or your town meetings, where some people, we're living in days where people have families, people are working long hours, and they're exhausted after work to come sit for a meeting for 2 hours after the work hours. So that's also a disconnect, and also a lot of younger generations are misinformed on the importance of a council meeting. People don't actually understand what takes place with that. And also I looked at the issues of online engagement. Like I said, you have millennials, but there's still millennials that don't have access to internet. And so that was one of the things that I found was an issue as well. There are some households that don't have any internet at all, just because their economic status. Some people can't afford the access to internet. And so this is just a chart of looking at the ways of the communication pieces. One-way communication, that's just pretty much you informing your community, and that can come from your city hall, informing them, hey, we have a event taking place, or we have a council meeting going on this Wednesday. That's just a one-way community. That's one way you can reach out to your outlook of engaging with your community. The two-way communication involves consult and involve, which to obtain public feedback and predetermined decisions and ideas. This is where you start making engagement, back and forth interaction with your population. Next, to work directly with the public throughout your decision making and making sure that they understand what's actually taking place. Because a lot of citizens, they see new developments going on, but they're disconnected on what's taking place. They didn't know that these decisions were being made, and they had the opportunity to actually get feedback in their concerns. By the time they actually see things taking place, the construction going on and all the zoning taking place, they're way behind on the input piece from that aspect. And then it becomes to actively start and engage, collaborating with your community. Once you get to that piece of the citizen participation engagement level, you start getting the feedback, and your citizens can actually start providing solutions to their potential outlook on their community. So I did a case study of 4 different cities, as I mentioned. I liked it with Austin. Austin is, for one of the emerging tech cities in America. They're kind of up there with Silicon Valley, but they're at a smaller scale just because they're in Texas, and California just got the name California. It's a tech-savvy state. You know, it's when you think of California, everything is new coming from California, but also Austin as well. Austin created a program called Speak Up. They partnered with a private company called Bang the Table, Table the Bang. I may be saying it wrong, but it was they partnered with them. They got donors to fund these projects, but it was pretty much they created a platform where citizens can go online and direct it to their website, where they could get information about upcoming projects and allow for them to take surveys on do they agree or disagree with the upcoming projects, and also allow for residents to give feedback and also understand and track the next steps moving forward with the project. Next is the City of Avondale. This is something new that they created about a year or two. It's called A Voice, and I'm going to look up exactly what the acronym stands for. I had it right here. But anyways, so A Voice, I forgot exactly what the acronym standed for. But the objective was also another piece for them to engage their citizens, particularly the younger generation, because they know that. Is that what I have left? Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. I get heavy-winded. So they know that the younger generation is mostly tech savvy, so they have this also linked up to their app. Their Avondale has a city app where it allows for them to click on the link A Voice, where they can engage with their citizens they have a list of their upcoming projects for the year and the next fiscal year that they're thinking of implementing, and this gives them they ask them brief questions about their concerns, and citizens can actually review other citizens' comments as well. But it's also it's anonymous, so they don't see the citizen's name. Next is Surprise. So the other piece that I took a different approach for is I want to look at Surprise. They have a good program that was nationally recognized by having an intergenerational community, far as having their elders and their younger generations well connected. And I think that's important as well when it comes to civic engagement through involving them, because the older generation, they can kind of set up a mentorship type of opportunity where they can pass the importance of being involved in local government. So I'm on a time crunch. And growing up in Boulder is pretty much implementing having younger children, ages 5 through 18 involved, and getting them involved with community engagement and civic learning. So I'm rushing. And this is just a piece of looking at the issues that Glendale could face, because only 69%, this is back in 2015, 69% of their households have internet access. And one of the ways I think that they can improve, looking at what is the expectations of their local City of Glendale residents, is creating a Likert scale and just looking at, do they agree with some of the services, do they feel that they're engaged, and what other ways that they can become more engaged with the community, with the city hall. My recommendations were to look at creating the digital engagement efforts of creating more apps, creating more opportunities for
You can finish.
All right, creating more opportunities for millennials and younger generations to have the opportunity to be engaged remotely. Look at, like I said, town hall meetings and be involved with council meetings remotely, and also seeking program development, creating opportunities where younger people at the program centers or city centers, where they can interact with older generations and also understand the importance of being involved in your local government. And just connecting them to technology. I wish I could have went more in depth, but I was on the time limit. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so unfortunately we won't have time for questions for this group. However, we do have the poster presentation, and Dr. Goggins and I believe Aaron as well will be hanging out at the end of the session, so if you have questions for them, you can. Jaslyn, thanks for staying on the line, but unfortunately we're out of time, so we'll let you go. Thank you. So, next up we have the second group working on digital media policy. This is the digital media policy class. Plan. Oh, all right. This is the digital media plan class. So we already discussed Glendale's goals in regards to social media, but the purpose of this project was for students to create a comprehensive social media policy that guides staff as they use social media channels. So students developed policies, rules, and procedures for engaging, creating, vetting, delivering, and archiving social media communications. Students worked in tandem with the other group taught by Dr. Caradini as well. And I will pass the mic if you want to say a few words. Go right ahead.
Yeah, so this class is focused more on the actual specifics of running social media. So what do we do on these platforms? Which platforms do we choose? Which platforms do we put certain types of content on? What do we need to buy? What's the budget? Who are we going to staff? These sorts of things. And so this particular class was an undergraduate class, so 16-week class, a normal length class, in contrast to the graduate student. And the undergraduates, as Steve noted, did have access to the same resources and some of the work of the graduate course, so they were able to kind of connect the two dots. And so the focus here is much more pragmatic than policy oriented, and so that's the main difference between these two projects. Is one is high level, and this is the boots on the ground version. So I'm going to turn it over to the first of our students. There will be 4 students who will present that represent 4 different groups that worked on 4 different projects, and then they combined them into a final report, which is going to be given to the City of Glendale. But each of these groups will be presenting what their individual groups focused on in their individual projects. So if you could hit the first slide. And yep. Which is it, left, right? Yeah, she's left, right.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Jared Simmons, and for my portion of the plan presentation, this is our outline. We'll go over a quick overview, talk about target audiences a little bit, get into platforms, a little bit on management, and then finally our conclusion. Engage, Display, Attract is our 3-prong approach for our plan. It's based on an annual framework using Glendale's cyclical events, and it will cover a wide range of demographics and uses by engaging Facebook, Twitter, Instagram to engage residents, visitors, and influencers with consistent interaction. It will display Glendale's potential and attributes by highlighting local attractions, and it will attract business and growth by showing that Glendale is a prime destination in Arizona. So for target audiences, of course, in general, the City of Glendale residents are main target, focusing on the Hispanic and Spanish speaking, which make up 1/3 of Glendale's population. And then looking at active living adults, which is kind of a smaller segment, but they're very studious in their civic responsibilities, so they're a good segment to focus on. And then visitors as well. So platforms, Facebook has the widest demographic users. So it would be used as a virtual community center of types to engage through discussion as well as promotion. And Twitter is an excellent tool for real-time civic engagement and through updates, local news, weather updates, and road conditions. So here's an example of City Toronto's Facebook. They have a really nice Facebook page, and it's just a simple promotion of a local art gallery or an art show. So they just have a small description, a link, and then a good picture to draw everyone in. And then here's ADOT Twitter, which I've actually used a lot driving across the state if there's construction, getting updates and stuff like that. So it's very handy to have those type of updates. And City of Scottsdale's Twitter, and they're giving a voter registration update on location. So imagine coming home from work or leaving anywhere and you get that last minute update and you know that something's changed or there's a time change or maybe there's a crunch. So definitely helps with that. Continue on YouTube, of course, video promotions. So it's a great way to show what Glendale has to offer with either short-term or short length or long-term videos of information, updates, and as well as past events. And then Instagram is a great way for visual promotion using high-quality images. The City of Phoenix Instagram, real nice picture of downtown Phoenix. They're actually talking about the weather, and it kind of draws you in with a good picture of the downtown area, and you're thinking, let's check it out. And then they got a real good discussion going on, just simply something about the weather and promote interaction. As far as management, for implementation, it's a 7-week schedule. During that time, we'll gather intelligence, do research, rework existing social media accounts, as well as develop promotional content. For the actual content plan, like we talked about, there's an annual framework, and that'll just be cyclical every year, and it'll also be built upon at the end of each year. And there are additional weekly focus of local attractions, restaurants, businesses, and those will be promoted through all 4 of the different social media platforms. Staffing is just one manager. Use the existing AV team for Glendale and maybe an unpaid intern for coffee or washing cars. And then as far as the budget, just the average salary for a manager, social media manager across the country is $56,000, so that would be a good starting point. So for the conclusion, for ours, using the annual framework really makes it ease of use year after year. Just build upon that the annual framework. Using the 4 platforms covers broad demographics and purposes, so it's got good general usage. Staffing, streamlined with a small staff, so it's easy to focus their effort, and the budget's a little bit lower and more manageable. And it will help leverage social media opportunities for Glendale and give desired results. I'll be followed by Cassidy.
Thank you. Hi guys, my name is Cassidy Rios, and I'm representing my group. So for our outline, we're gonna target audience and demographics, budget, the implementation schedule, as well as the content release. So the importance of social media is used on a day-to-day basis, tied in with technology, whether it's for businesses or individuals. It's used for promotion, tied in with businesses, and then for individuals, we use it at our own benefits for whatever that may be. And by incorporating various social media platforms into Glendale's everyday system and everyday flow, there will be a better chance for overall city traffic, which is our ultimate goal. So for target audience and demographics, I went ahead and bullet pointed Hispanics, the retired, business, and visitors. For Hispanics, I want to go ahead and use Facebook and Instagram, because over here, out of my research, I did see a pattern of more usage by the Hispanic with Facebook and the Instagram social media platform. For retired, I want to go ahead and use Facebook. For businesses, I want to go ahead and do blogging and vlogging through LinkedIn, since it is a more professional website. For visitors, we want to go ahead and use everything as far as ads on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. But overall, our main focus is word of mouth, because word of mouth, which is buzz, it's a form of buzz marketing. You hear something good about a city, they're going to want to go to it. So overall, I want to target everyone. For our budget, we want to go ahead and, for boosting posts on Facebook, it is $20,000 per year. For our website, we primarily want to use the search engine optimization for the company, which runs about $25,000 per year. And it will be $0 cost to post, because with an intern, because they just want experience to learn for their future endeavors and their career goals. And we want to use the staff of the City of Glendale. So the more people post it, the more it benefits the City of Glendale. So the total estimated would be $45,000 a year. Specifically for staffing, we want to go ahead and do a social media manager. So I want them to go ahead and post, schedule, and share overall content. And we want them to assist the social media manager. For the content creation team, we want them to create the content and use to promote different aspects of Glendale. So I want them to go ahead and bring more creativity into the postings, not just a post, something more meaningful behind each and every post. For the assistant to the social media manager, we want them to help find the material to like, share, and comment on anything that's related to Glendale. So basically, it's engagement. For the implementation schedule, want to create, prepare, engage, and once again, prepare. So we want to create, step one, we want to go ahead and create professional social media email account while opening all the social media platforms that I had mentioned in the previous slides. I want to go ahead and create accounts with the city's information. So I want to ultimately also create a link to the website, and then among that website, links to all of the social media platforms. So it's just easy access for anyone who wants to navigate any of our platforms. We also want to add in the important dates and events and contact information to help anyone that needs information on Glendale. And then, like I said, we want to go ahead and engage with all the platforms and want to accurately prepare all of the platforms against Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. And then down below, I do have a timeline as far as how exactly we want to go ahead and do this. So we have a 3rd day of launch, the 4th day onwards, and then 2 weeks after that. For the content release, for Facebook, we want to go ahead and post 3 to 4 times a week when necessary. For Instagram, just daily posts for engagement. For Twitter, very active and up to date with any news information or any good stuff like that. For LinkedIn, bi-weekly, so when any business-related and professional events take place, we want to go ahead and let everyone know about that. And like I said before, interaction, we want to like, comment, share, and respond to everything associated with Glendale, so we can just generate overall traffic flow to our websites and to all of our social medias, which will then transform into the City of Glendale itself. So how will this help? Overall, it's going to help. It'll help with Glendale's activity, help and make it reliable and dependable by interacting with everyone, and it'll just generate better response from the citizens or to potential prospects visiting Glendale, and it'll just reach different demographics within the city, and it'll just develop strong relationship and unity among the city as well. So why our plan? So rather than focusing on a specific niche, we want to go ahead and maximize Glendale's traffic by targeting everyone and anyone. And like I said previously, word of mouth is essential and it's beneficial, and it's a free tool to engage all ages and all diversities to end up into the same destination, which is Glendale, the City of Glendale. And I'm going to go ahead and transfer it to the next presentation.
My name is Farhan Khan, and I'll be representing my group. And today, I'll be discussing the demographics that we're going to focus on, the implementation schedule, our budget, and the final conclusion. So as we know, a lot of members of the Hispanic community are active on social media. Although they're heavily active on social media platforms such as Facebook and Instagram, their participation level is very low. Our goal is to connect with them by staying up to date and providing engaging content that connects with the Hispanic community specifically. The senior citizens of Glendale are the most active on social media. We plan on connecting with them by spreading community engagement, keeping them informed about the city, and also by providing them a platform so they can share their own content. Okay. And our implementation schedule is gonna take us roughly up to 7 weeks. This includes creating the page, buying all the necessary equipment, and the posting of the material. Our implementation strategy will be planned out and executed as the weeks pass. Okay. And then our budget for this overall project will be a little over $200,000. $198,000 is going to go to the staffing overall. And then $2,359 is going to go to the equipment overall that we're going to use throughout the whole year. Okay. We plan on using Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for our overall marketing plan to target different demographics and get them to engage and involved in the City of Glendale. Our main goal is to establish connections, build relationships, and keep the audience engaged by providing them information and awareness about the City of Glendale. Okay, and then I'm going to pass it over to you.
Hi, I'm Stella Huang, and I'm representing my group. So based on the previous slide, we have known that there is a lot of Hispanic and Spanish speaker in City of Glendale. So our plan is separating social media accounts into English and Spanish on Facebook and Twitter. So we are focusing on the Facebook and Twitter. So by separating two language which can connect to English and Spanish speakers in their own language, you will need a social media manager that is bilingual, and it'll be much easier to create a buzz for events. And secondly, Glendale can give each language voice, and a bilingual social media manager gives the ability to get feedback from all of the community, and the community will get to be heard. And last, Glendale will be able to create content in a way that makes sense on social media. This will give the city a chance to create content for all, and this will make invitation and news to be received better. And by separating Facebook and Twitter into English and Spanish, citizens feel that the city of Glendale cares about them on a personal level. The opportunity to hear things in your own language is impactful. And Glendale will receive better feedback because of the comfort of being understood. And the different community will feel more comfortable sharing their feelings with Glendale, create more involvement in city events that are specific to groups more easily marketed, and creating greater events where the communities can get to know each other better. So there are 4 reasons why Facebook is one of the best social media platforms for City of Glendale. So we have known that there's a high percentage of Hispanics and Spanish speaker in Glendale. So they have highest percentage of users all over the platform, and it can reach wide range of demographic, and the followers can share the content easily. And for the content, we can do video, vlogging, events, and infographics, etc. So another one we focus on is Twitter. So Twitter can instantly be reach the community and connect with other city pages like police department, fire department, and they are all connected. You can transfer to another pages if you want. And Twitter will be less formal compared to Facebook. They can quickly get to the point and answer questions or concern quickly. And here are some examples of Facebook and Twitter posts. And that's it. Thank you.
So today we are truly local to global because Dr. Nicole Darnall is joining us all the way from Japan. Nicole, can you hear us?
I can. Konnichiwa.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining. So, quick introduction for this group. Since the 2008 recession, the City of Glendale has put off constructing new facilities to house operations and management functions, as well as public use facilities. In the next few years, there will be a spate of new facilities built, which will replace substandard facilities and add new facilities. And the purpose of this project was to help the city develop standards for those buildings, how to use low carbon systems, techniques and materials that would conserve water, energy, and land. So the goal is to adopt a third-party standard or hybrid of high-performance building standards for building design consultants and contractors to work toward. So I'm going to give it away to Nicole to introduce the project, and then we'll have the group come up to present.
My introduction is going to be short because the students are going to introduce themselves. So I'm going to discuss the class. This is a graduate class of organizations. They cover topics related to organization, sustainability, and public policy. We have master's students in sustainability solutions and master's students of public administration in the class. So why don't you all take it away?
Good afternoon. Can you hear us? Is it on? So we are the students from PAF and SOS 445. It's Organization, Sustainability, and Public Policy. We were guided by Professor Nicole Darnall. She's in Japan right now. So our project was based on the renovation of field operation campus in Glendale, and we reached for landscaping, sustainable purchasing, green building standards, and also energy efficiency.
So to start, we had a great site visit with the City of Glendale and their very supportive employees. Starting from there and learning about this campus, which is 50 acres, 412 employees work there, 5 departments are based there, a lot of really important behind the scenes stuff happening. And it's exciting because there's opportunities for this makeover that's happening. For our research, we started by finding sources, reviewing literature, analyzing data. We identified cities that had promising examples for the City of Glendale, and then we interviewed experts at these cities. Our results were best practices on our topics, and then also return on investment potential. My topic specifically was sustainable landscaping. For this, I had to create kind of a synthesis definition to work off of. So the one I came up with is a landscape that requires minimal capital inputs, prioritizes native plants, provides increased levels of carbon storage, supports local ecosystem functions, and over in time improves human health and quality of life. Based on my research, I found 2 categories of best practices. One was on the ground. This is actually a City of Glendale community center that demonstrates 2 of these. Passive rainwater management, which is water conservation, as well as diversity of native and climate-adapted plants. Another best practice is low-impact development, which helps mitigate stormwater runoff and address pollution in stormwater runoff. Another is the use of shade to mitigate urban heating, which is an increasing issue in the Phoenix area. Also, integrated pest management and the reuse of on-site materials. And finally, an on-the-horizon best practice, which is green roofs and facades. My next category of best practices were actions. This is Burbank, California Power and Water Eco Campus that demonstrates these 3: strategic maintenance, making sure maintenance matches the landscaping, partnerships with outside organizations, for example in Arizona that could be the Watershed Management Group, and then demonstration projects. So this is a demonstration project, street side, of 5 types of low impact development. Demonstration projects can also help you get grant funds. Did a return on investment based on a scenario of 1 acre of sustainable landscaping on the campus. Based on that, Glendale could see a 14.8% return on investment in 5 years. This includes productivity gains and reduced turnover of employees. It does not include things like improved water quality and improved air quality, which are important benefits that are hard to quantify. I do recommend Glendale conduct its own return on investment if it does decide to move forward on this, because I'm not a professional landscaper. And then there were, again, 2 categories of recommendations. The first is more overarching, which you'll see with my other classmates. One is a vision. So what is Glendale's vision of a sustainable landscape based on its goals, its context, its needs? Another is to identify a leader. So without an advocate who has support getting this going, it's not going to go anywhere. Also consider incorporating leadership from the 4 departments on the campus that do engage with landscaping. Finally, phased implementation. This doesn't all have to happen at once. Take some examples and test those out. So one option might be trying a few low-impact development practices on the campus so employees can learn from that, see what works, see what's best for Glendale, or maybe a pesticide-free park to see if there's community support for this and what would work best in Glendale's context again. In terms of specific recommendations for the campus, this is back to Burbank's Power and Water Eco Campus that demonstrates a couple of these. One is the reuse of a super trellis on site. So you can reuse on-site materials to create something that's beneficial for employees. Other recommendations are to identify environmental resources and context on the campus. So where is water falling from the roof? Where are underused parking spaces that can be turned into landscaping? Where would landscaping benefit employees? Employees spend time outside and it's hot. How can you set up something that would benefit them? Review maintenance practices, so make sure it matches the area. Maybe add bioswales around the drains that lead to the water retention basin, or nearby low-impact development to help mitigate the runoff coming from those large city vehicles. Also, view that water retention basin as an opportunity for the community. So it's already low-impact development. It can host sustainable landscaping practices. It can be a test site, and it can also be seen as a welcome site for the low-income community that does surround the campus. And from there, I'm going to pass it on. There you go.
Hello, everyone. I'm Hasini Delvin, and I will be presenting on sustainable purchasing. This research was carried out by Chantel Wyke and myself. So since we are going to be focusing on the business case for sustainable purchasing for the City of Glendale, let me introduce you what the financial power of sustainable purchasing. So sustainable purchasing is also cost effective because the efficiencies will be improved, there will be reduced waste, reduced risk, and thereby reduce costs. And along with these will be higher volumes of purchases that you get through contracts. So this will generate better, provide you with better prices. So the overarching goal of this particular project was to provide the City of Glendale with the business case for sustainable purchasing. We wanted to identify key sustainable purchasing categories that will provide the best financial payoffs, and then recommend strategies that will enable the city its initial efforts in sustainable purchasing. So our recommendations are based on 30 case studies from 10 different cities and counties across the country. And based on this research, we identified 5 key purchasing categories that have provided other cities with best financial payoffs. And these included vehicles and fleet, energy, chemical products and services, electronics, and office supplies. In terms of recommendations, we provide 2 types of recommendations to the city, actions to be implemented at the city level and actions to be implemented at the department or the division level. So first, coming to the city level, it's important that you collect comprehensive baseline data on current purchasing efforts. That way you can cut down on unnecessary purchases as well as identify where the opportunities are. And the second recommendation is to adopt a sustainable purchasing policy that will stand as a firm statutory framework. Third is to assign responsibilities, which comes in the form of assigning a personnel in charge of sustainable purchasing as well as designated personnel from different key departments. And it's also important to establish effective, collaborative, and innovative contracts as well as solicitations. Finally, we cannot highlight the importance of this enough. Focus on key sustainable purchasing categories at the initial stage of implementation. Next are the recommendations for the departments. And in the interest of time, we have handpicked a few recommendations for the departments, and we have categorized these based on the payback time when you get the return on investment. So we have short, medium, and long-term recommendations for departments. So LED lighting could be a short-term win that you could get. And an example for a medium-term win would be 100% post-consumer recycled paper. And in terms of long-term wins, you can transition from conventional to electric vehicles, as well as purchase green council electronics, certified electronics. And the other thing that's important to highlight here is that it's important that all the key departments associated with each of these efforts come together, as well as you integrate purchasing into ongoing and upcoming initiatives and projects. So the upcoming renovation of the field operations campus would provide you a unique opportunity to apply many of these initiatives. I'll end with that.
I'm David Alexander, a Master's of Public Policy student, and Soraya and I were charged with looking into green building standards for the renovation project. Just philosophically, I think Glendale should look at it as a crawl, walk, run. When you look at all these building standards out there, there's many out there, the 2 top, and we talk to local experts and national experts, the 2 top programs are LEED and the Living Building Challenge. LEED, we can get onto that offline, it's very complicated. We're in a LEED silver building here right now. It's a very commonly used green building program. Living Building Challenge is actually the ultimate top that you can get. It's so intricate that you would have a energy neutral building where you would have solar panels, where your electricity that you save, you're selling back to the grid. It's really, really top notch. There's only about 300 buildings like that in the United States. None of them are municipal at all. But I think Glendale should look at that as an ultimate goal. Use this renovation project as a way to get to that goal, to be one of the first municipalities that gets to a Living Building Challenge building. So even if the renovation project only has one LEED certified building, that's a start. That's crawl, you're learning, you're getting your knowledge base to walk, to run. If you have more LEED buildings, obviously that would be great, but just to start to get momentum. Look at it even as a football game. Scoring the touchdown is getting a Living Building Challenge building. You're not going to get that in a Hail Mary pass. It's going to be intricate, a slow drive. So just pound by pound, get down there and learn in that fashion.
Okay, so this is just an example of where Glendale can go. This is a construction building, a company in Phoenix, and they are LEED Platinum certified, and they're also Living Building Challenge Net Zero Energy. So you can see that they have no closed offices, a lot of informal places to meet. They use a lot of natural light, and they produce and sell energy. So they're already in the top level of sustainability in construction. That's like the goal that Glendale can reach for.
Now, the one issue with LEED is the fact that your initial investment is higher than a traditional building. And obviously with government being in scarce resources, that's something that at the onset is a hard sell maybe to a community. But if you look at it holistically, a LEED certified building is going to save you money in the long run. Why? Because LEED buildings save you on electricity usage and water consumption costs. The city of Nashville, and just before I get to that, a typical LEED building costs 4% to 12% higher than traditional building. Your basic certified building's at 4%, your LEED Platinum is at 12.5% higher than traditional building. But don't worry about that, because over the complete life cycle of the building, you will save money from your water bills and your electric bill that will pay off that initial investment. The city of Nashville, which I would recommend you to look into, they're doing great work with LEED certified buildings. They save between $300,000 to $700,000 per year on their energy and water bill because they have LEED buildings. Just trying to break this off in a model, these are the 3 most recent buildings that the city of Nashville have constructed that are LEED certified. Fire Station 19 costs $4.8 million. If you go on a conservative model, yes, it would take 10 years to pay off from the savings you're gleaning from your energy and water costs. If on a basic 4%, it's 3 years. In reality, this is probably a LEED gold building, so it's in between there. Between 3 and 10 years, you'd be able to pay off your initial increased investment costs. But once you reach that point, you're operating this building at a savings. So if you look at the complete life cycle of the actual building, 25, 30-year life cycle of a building, it's cheaper than actually a non-LEED certified building. You just have to look at the long game. The final thing I'll mention here is the numbers for the Belleville Library are a little off because they're not able at that facility to track their water consumption. So that's just from electric savings. Water consumption, I mentioned that, is very considerable. In all our studies, we learned that you save a heck of a lot more money on water than anything. And with Arizona having water issues, with the Valley having water issues, I think that's a good selling point to the community that these buildings are incredibly water efficient.
So our recommendations for Glendale, okay, it's first to do some implementation steps to change your culture internally. You should improve your internal communication. This is based on every city that we search on. They passed a sustainability ordinance to promote sustainable principles in construction in the whole city. They created a team, they recognize efforts, so that's to establish your culture. This is also steps to implement most of sustainability's principles that you want to apply in your city. Okay. So this is the recommendations for processes. The major step here is to start monitor the use of resources. We are aware that right now Glendale is not capable of doing that, but that is like a basic sustainability principle to do whatever you want to do right now. So you have to start monitor the use of resources, how much you spend on energy and water, and maintaining the building, which building that you're going to reconstruct. Even if you're not going to apply for a LEED certification, you right now, you could follow the lead guidance to create your own ordinance, to create your own guide for your future projects. In the future recommendations, it's, even if I know that that's not the main goal, but apply for a certification in LEED or other projects that we present in our report, or the programs that we present in our report, because that opens a whole network nationally and internationally of cities that are doing that, and you can have access to best practices and what is the most innovation ideas in construction. So you can have access to that by certification. You can also, after that, finally follow Living Building Challenge guidance to improve your local regulation and go that step forward and go to the final and reach the final goal that City of Glendale is looking for.
All right, we're the energy efficiency group. So these are some of the recommendations we're going to get into. We're just going to cut right to it because a lot of the other groups already touched on some of the other intricacies prior to giving their recommendations. So considering scalability, costs, and benefits, when considering energy efficiency and renewable energies, and then implementing co-integration of renewable energies, energy efficient infrastructure, such as solar roofs in addition to cool roofs, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And then also implementing a solar carport infrastructure, which could be really good for the rebuilding of the Glendale structure. So you want to talk about yours first?
Yeah, so we started by doing an analysis. We looked at over a dozen cities across the United States that had implemented successful renewable energy and energy efficiency policies. We have two examples here. The first one is in Cleveland, who actually installed a solar turbine and a solar panel demonstration at their art museum. And we have the City of Tucson, who redesigned one of their buildings to be more energy efficient.
Yeah, and they did that through utilizing air duct and leakage control mechanisms, as well as HVAC monitoring using setback controls. Next.
So one of the first recommendations that we have for the city is to consider installing a solar carport. So from some of the cities that we analyzed, particularly the city of Chico in California, we found that they were able to break even within 14 years on this investment. And on average, they saved $130,000 per year. So solar carports can provide shade for the employees or for the city fleet, wherever you choose to put it. And it's also more visible than solar roof panels. It visibly signals the city's commitment to sustainability.
All right, then prioritizing roofing. So when becoming more sustainable, you have to consider the building envelope, like the windows, insulation, things of that nature, when you're reconstructing infrastructure. So one of the things that we're recommending is obviously prioritizing roofing and having a sense of reflectivity and increasing the albedo on the roof, which can decrease the temperatures by up to 20 to 25%. So we found that in a couple of case studies in Atlantic City, the Atlantic City Convention Center in New Jersey, and the Austin, Texas Target retail store achieved roof temperature reductions within those parameters right over there. And then also continuing on, recognizing the fact that co-implementation is possible, but you can in fact install solar on top of a reflective roof, kind of getting more bang for your buck kind of thing. So we recommend that because, you know, it'll just promote the overall sustainability and take you towards a sustainable future more quickly, as opposed to just doing one over the other.
So another reason that we recommend solar carports is because the average lifespan of the solar panel is 20 to 25 years, and many of these buildings are due to be renovated in the near future. So you wouldn't get their full lifespan if you install them on the rooftops. So one of the other recommendations that we have is to consider designing your buildings to support a solar rooftop panel if you choose. You can do this by considering things like shading, weight bearing, orientation, and materials. On average, this costs $5,000 to $7,000 more, but you save between $13,000 or $25,000 in retrofit costs. So by investing this money in the short term, you can save money in the long term.
All right, the energy efficiency, scalability, and futures thinking. If you want to take a look at that chart right there, the higher tier you get in promoting sustainability, whether it be retrofits or recreating infrastructure to be more sustainable, you get different returns on investments. But as was highlighted earlier, it's not a it's not a race, it's a marathon. So, you know, maybe the best thing for Glendale would be incrementally implementing these things and generating cost savings to reinvest in future projects. So you could start as much as, you know, replacing light bulbs with Energy Star. And then I highlighted these two C40 cities in SWEEP, Southwest. Final thoughts? Yeah, final thoughts. Southwestern Energy Efficiency Project was because the Phoenix is a part of C40 and Tucson is a part of that. So gaining these little short-term wins could gain momentum to be considered into these greater networks, which will promote further sustainability going down the road and getting resources from other cities as well. So.
Thank you.
Great job, everyone. I'm just going to keep my closing remarks extremely brief and say that we are very excited for the spring semester. We'll be working on a fleet management and transition plan. We will be working on a chemical storage tanks project. And there's potential. I was searching my email. I couldn't find the update on the flooding project. Is that still on the table?
Yeah.
Cool, so we've got two really awesome projects coming up for spring semester. I want to thank everyone from the City of Glendale again for taking time out of your busy days, for our faculty, for our students. And Kevin or Bart, would either of you like to deliver a few final remarks?
Chief? Well, again, on behalf of the city, thank you so much. This was outstanding, and this is a partnership we're just thrilled to get.
And likewise, thank you on behalf of the council and all of our residents. As a fairly recent graduate school student myself, I enjoyed being on the other side of these types of presentations and know what you've gone through. Lots of good hard work and lots of good ideas in there for us. So thanks again. Good luck.
Excellent. Cool. Well, we have a little bit of time left. We'd love to have the students and faculty go back to your posters. And I know that lots of thoughts were probably brewing in those last couple of presentations, and we ran out of time for questions, so this is a great opportunity for that. Just the last thing one exciting update too is we just closed our RFP for the next cycle, and we have 4 cities that applied this next year, so that's exciting too. We've loved working with Glendale, and we'd love to continue the partnership too, even beyond this first year, as we work with another community partner as well. So with that, I want to say thank you, everybody, and let's go hit those posters.